Yep, says we are live. Hey, everybody, it's JJ Conway. I'm so excited to be here with you today. It is our first Thursday of the month, and every first Thursday is Fireside Chat, where I attempt to answer your money questions with style and grace. I've got a couple of juicy questions queued up for you, but if you have a question, there are several ways that you can get your question answered today. And if you are listening to this as part of the Wealth Building Wednesdays on the Building Wealth Together podcast, that I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you to come every Thursday, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, and join us in our live recording. A lot of the teachings and a lot of the Q&A that go into the podcast come directly from the Thursday night teachings, and it's your opportunity to get coached by me for free. Who doesn't like free, So anyhow, I'm going to go ahead now and I'm going to pull up a couple of questions. If you would like to ask a question, there are several ways that you can ask a question. One, if you are watching live Thursday night, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, and you are on the YouTube or LinkedIn or the Facebook channels, we have a bunch of different channels that it streams out to. You can write a chat comment and that'll ask the question. If you would prefer to dial in rather than watch, and you're dialed in on free conference call, it's in Q&A mode. So you dial *6 and on some carriers 1, and that'll raise your hand in my web controls. And then I can click you and it'll unmute you and you'll be able to ask your question. The final way, if you really, really, really want to be anonymous about it, is you can go to askjjc.com, askjjc.com, and you can ask your question there, and it will be completely anonymous. Okay. Now, what we are doing, if you go to the form at askjjc.com, there's also a 1888 or 884 number, I think it is. Let me go back to that. It's an 833 number, 8334 Ask JJC. How cool is that, right? When you go to that number, you can leave a voicemail and I can take your question and play it on the podcast and along with my answer. So that's a really exciting new development. What I'd like to get to is to be able to call you or answer your questions live. And so what I've done to kind of nudge me in towards that end is I have dropped in the description for this event the link for you to come backstage and ask your question live with me in this stream. So if you are willing to be coached in front of a million of your favorite internet strangers, then you are more than welcome to come in. I'm going to drop that link in the chat one more time. And this way you will be able to, you might have to copy and paste it rather than click it in some browsers, because we are streaming to a bunch of different platforms. But if you want to come and you want to ask a question and come on screen with me, go to the link and then you can ask your question. In the future, I want to be able to have it where people can call in, kind of like a live radio show. But we're thinking about doing that in mid-2023, and I'm super excited about that. Okay, announcement before I go and start answering questions. We are so excited. We have finalized the details for Dr. Boyce Watkins to be the keynote speaker at Juneteenth Legacy Conference. It will be held in Chicago. The hotel venue is under negotiation right now, but it'll be held in Chicago June 15th and 16th. That's a Thursday and a Friday. It's going to be the Juneteenth Legacy Conference. Dr. Boyce Watkins is our keynote speaker, and he will be attending the VIP dinner for those of you who choose to upgrade. We are finalizing the pages. We are finalizing the call for speakers. But if you know you want to get into this thing, I already know the seating is going to be limited. The speaker slots to be on stage with Dr. Boyce Watkins are going to be limited. Reach out to me today, because everything I do, y'all, it is first come, first served. And by first come, I mean first paid. So you want to be in the room or on the Zoom when we have this hybrid conference. I'm so excited about it. All right, so now let's go into our questions. And again, if you are listening to this as part of the Building Wealth Together podcast, I want to encourage you to come on live with us Thursday nights, where you can get your money questions answered with style and grace. We have first Thursday of every month is Fireside Chat. That's a free for all. Our second Thursday is all about our 7-figure business building, and we look at different ways to create multiple streams of income, which once implemented will result in that 7-figure security that many of us desire for ourselves and for our families. Every third Thursday is Real Estate Thursday, and it's my favoriteest way for people who are starting over again later in life to build wealth quickly and ethically. And so I am very excited about our real estate classes. You can come on and ask any question about investing in real estate. You can even ask questions about other forms of investments at any time in our Thursday night classes, such as stock markets and crypto and things like that. In fact, I think next time I'm probably going to address crypto just a little bit, because I know everybody's wondering if they should dip their toe back in the water. I hope you never took your toe out of the water, but if you did, you need to take another look at crypto. Again, we don't invest with money that we can't afford to lose, and in crypto right now isn't even an investment. It's more of a speculation, and we certainly don't speculate with money that's needed to put food on the table. But I'm all about speculating with that pizza money and that McDonald's money, because Lord knows we don't need that stuff in our bodies anyway. Okay. So, with that, our first question right out the gate, y'all. Our first question right out the gate. I didn't talk about the fourth Thursday. Let me back that up. Back it up. The fourth question, the fourth Thursday of the month is our Empowered Entrepreneur. And those lessons are about helping us grow into being the kind of person that has what we want to have out of life. So if you want to have and do more, well, then you have to yourself grow into more. And that's a journey. It's a lifelong journey of learning. And I'm so honored and so grateful that you make your time spent with JJ Conway a part of your personal growth plan. All right, first question out the gate. Can you please talk to us about investing in crypto? All right, let's talk about investing in crypto, y'all. First of all, I'm going to go on record. I've been saying it even when I was encouraging people to buy into it when crypto was 70 something $1,000 a Bitcoin, right? Crypto is not an investment itself. Buying the currency is not an investment. People look at it as an investment because they are expecting that if they buy some crypto now, later on down the road, it will have appreciated greatly and that it will be worth a lot of money. Okay. And so one of the things that I like to remind people is that there are different types of investing. And what buying crypto in today's market is speculating. Speculating is a very high risk form of investing. Some experts don't even consider it investing. I consider it investing because you are expecting a reward for the risk. But the thing is when we speculate, we don't really know what's going to happen. And I think about in just our lifetime, if some of you who are my age or older, you might remember when the internet came out when we were college age, young adults. And one of the things that came out with the internet were a whole lot of financial providers to facilitate the electronic exchange of money. Okay. So you had companies like PayPal who do what PayPal does, but those companies were different companies. And I was one of the first people, I've started saying this, and somebody hasn't corrected me yet because I don't think there were anybody else, but I've started saying I was the first Black female web host and design company, Jasper Web Host, back in 1997. I think we started that. If there's somebody else out there that had a web host and design company before me, you can let me know. But I'm pretty sure I was the first person, first woman of color in that space. But I didn't last very long because the technology quickly outpaced my desire to keep up with it and run a day job and be a wife and have a ministry. So I actually sold that business. It was the first business I built and sold. It was actually quite satisfying to have packaged something of value. It's enough value that somebody wanted to sell it. And I hadn't even read the E-Myth back then. But anyway, let me get back to crypto. And in talking about the speculatory nature of crypto, I'm talking about the dawn of internet and all of these companies like PayPal that sprung up to try and facilitate moving money electronically. Because I had this internet company, I had to learn how to implement all these ones because this person would ask me to build them a website and they were using this processor. And this person would ask me to build them a website and they were using that processor. And this one was using this and this one was using that. And some of them were traditional processors that had e-payment gateways, and some of them were alternatives like PayPal. Well, a whole bunch of companies like PayPal started off with PayPal. If you are a speculatory investor, what you would do is when something like that happens, you would invest in all of them. So speculators invested in all those companies like PayPal. They didn't know that PayPal was going to be the one that was going to last. In fact, I think a couple years in, PayPal itself went bankrupt. I can't quite remember, but they either went bankrupt or were close to it. And so a speculator doesn't know that. All they know is this is the new thing. This is the cheapest ground layer I can get in on all of these. I'm gonna buy a little bit of this one, this one, this one, and that one, and we're gonna see which one sticks. And PayPal lasted. And so now PayPal is so mainstream, you can use it to buy things all over the world. Okay. Not in every country though, but all over the world. And so that's a speculatory kind of investing. And that's where I put the crypto stuff right now. So when you're buying Bitcoin or you're buying, is Dogecoin still out there? I mean, I met somebody else a couple months ago who was launching their own form of cryptocurrency. There are so many cryptocurrencies out there right now. Nobody knows which one is actually going to last, if any of them. And there's a lot of financial analysts that I've sat in some of their classes and they've talked about Bitcoin, and Bitcoin seems to have the indicators that it might last. But the reality is, we don't know which one's going to last. Or maybe two of them will merge, or three or four of them will merge, and that will be the one that becomes the PayPal of the new generation, right? We just don't know. And because we don't know, I can't tell you invest in crypto by buying crypto. But what would I tell you? Well, if you're going to waste your money at Starbucks, if you're going to waste your money at Pizza Hut, I shouldn't name brand names because I don't want to they're not paying me to mention their names, right? But if you're going to throw your money away on fast food, or if you're going to go down to the boat, or if you're going to go here, or if you're going to go there, and you're going to go shopping and you're going to buy $150, $200 worth of stuff this weekend that you know you're never going to wear, you're going to give it away with the tag still attached. Well, take 100 of that and buy you some Bitcoin. I think it's very reasonable to buy some Bitcoin. I think it's reasonable to buy any other cryptocurrency that you think is appealing and that you think might stand the test of time. And I think it's perfectly acceptable to say, you know what, I don't have time to do all that research and I don't really understand this thing. So instead of going and spending $50 at McDonald's to feed my family, I'm going to go spend $10 to buy some beef, cheese, and some buns, make them from scratch, and I'm going to put $40. I'm gonna put $1 into all these different coins. You could do that, you know. I wouldn't want you to miss out just because I'm telling you it's speculatory, okay? But I don't want you to do what so many of us did back in the day with the Iraqi dinars. Anybody remember my dinar story? Man, if you've been a long time subscriber of the podcast, you will have heard this story a couple times, but I think it's important to know because it's the kind of thing a lot of us do. We had somebody come back from Iraq, and I didn't know it at the time. We didn't know it at the time, but he saw an opportunity to market to everybody in the church. He set himself up a little company that would sell dinars to our members of our church, and it spread like wildfire throughout the whole church. Everybody was buying dinars. And the premise was valid. The premise was valid. When a society collapses and it rebuilds, they take on new currency, and that fledgling state, that new currency does not have the strength that it will eventually have. So the premise is you buy some of that currency, and then over time, the civilization, the culture, the organization, the government of that new country or that rebuilding country stabilizes, and their currency increases in value. So if you are there in the beginning of when Iraq is being reborn and you buy some of their new currency, it would stand to make sense that 20 years later that new currency would be worth 10, 100, 1,000 times what you paid for it. Except with Iraq, it wasn't. I got about $3,000 that we paid for worth of dinars because in the divorce, he got half and I got half. And we got about $3,000 worth of dinars that today is worth, I think, 20 cents. I forget the actual calculation, but it's like a dollar. It's less than a dollar that it's worth. But we at least knew that this was fun investment speculatory money, and we bought a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here. But so many people in my circles put all their savings into dinars, and that's what I'm seeing with crypto. There are so many people, with all the outcries, with all the scams that have happened, and the leaders of these companies that stole off with people's money, and they can't get their money back out of these crypto systems, and they're having an uproar. Well, I lost everything. I lost all of my finances. Well, you know what usually happens when people try to get rich is they're going to lose everything. Usually, when we're reacting out of fear or greed, we are making some financial decisions that are going to result in misery later on, result in losing everything later on. If we don't lose everything, could result in losing all of our family and friends because we've had to use them and step on them to get to where we want to go. That's not the kind of life I want to live, and it's not the kind of life I want you to live either. Right. And so if you are listening to my podcast, I am encouraging you to buy crypto, but note that I'm not calling it invest in crypto. So should you invest in crypto and technologies? If you have the money to buy some crypto, I would buy some crypto. If you have the time to learn about crypto, I would encourage you to learn. I'm still learning about it. There's so much to learn about the whole metaverse and all the space and the NFTs and everything like that. I feel like I'm a continual student. And if you want to invest in the traditional sense in the crypto space, then I encourage you to invest in companies that are serving those who move, manage, use crypto. Okay. So you may not know which crypto is going to be the lasting one. Like the people back in the day did not know which money provider that PayPal was going to be the one to rule them all, right? Nobody knew that PayPal was going to be the one that would last. Nobody knows if Bitcoin's going to be the one that lasts. Nobody knows which one's going to last. So you don't want to hang your hat on that. You don't want to invest your emergency fund on that. You don't want to invest your retirement fund on that unless you are truly investing, like buying into mutual funds or stocks of companies that cater to this market, because we know the technology is not going away. Okay. Now this technology used today may not be the technology used tomorrow, but we know that the companies that are producing technology for crypto, there are many of those companies that are going to stand the test of time. How do we know this? Because even the Bible predicts that around the world, everybody's money is going to be interconnected. I mean, if you are, now look, if you're not of Christian faith today, then this doesn't apply to you. But if you are of Christian faith today, you ought to give Revelations a good read. There's a lot of stuff in there that really predicts the way the world has changed and where it's going. And if you look at the world in the context of Revelations and you think about where it was from when we were kids, those of you who are my age or older, from where we were kids to where it is today, it's all out there in black and white, y'all. And one of the things in black and white is a unified financial structure. So I'm not surprised. I'm not going to be surprised if this is unified structure is crypto, because it falls in line with all the other things that would have to happen that's predicted in Revelations. So yes, so do I recommend buying crypto? Yes, I recommend buying crypto. Do I recommend calling it an investment? No, I don't call crypto an investment any more than I call buying a nice handbag an investment. Don't tell me a handbag is an investment. Now, it may be a business expense. It may make you look good. It may make you feel good. My nice handbags make me feel good when I look at them because I choose them because I love how they look. I don't choose them for brand name. I choose them because they put a smile on my face, or I really love the color, or I really like the style, or it goes perfectly with this outfit, or I'm getting it for this event. And when I see it, it just makes me smile. That's the kind of stuff I buy, right? But I'm not going to call that an investment. Okay, because it's not making me money. Investments are things that make us money. All right, great question, great question, great question. All right, now if you have a money question, I want to encourage you again. Hold on, let me pause here so that doesn't get so loud. I'm going to pause and check the Ask JJC, see if new questions have come in. I've got one more question that was in here beforehand. Let me scroll down and see if we got some new questions. Okay, and then let me check on the Q&A, the queue. Okay, I don't see anybody on free conference call in the queue to ask a question. So I'm going to answer this question. And if we don't have any other questions dropped in the queue, dropped in the chat, then I'm going to go ahead and close this out, because this question is probably going to take me to the top of, or to the bottom, or to the top of the hour. Because this is a good question. It's a good question, and I love my explanation for it. Okay. So the question is, we have a business and I don't know how much my husband will bring in from month to month. How do I know how to budget for that, for our monthly expenses? This is a fantastic question, and it really speaks to the heart of something that I teach that a lot of other financial planners don't teach. Okay. And that is, we don't just need one type of budget in our lives. We actually need two types of budgets in our lives. And one of those budgets is our allocated spend plan, which is where we say, okay, this is how much money I know I have coming in next week, and here's where it's going to get spent. I give every dollar a name, give every dollar a job, give every dollar a purpose. There's nothing that's left to be willy-nilly. Everything that I have coming in next week is going to be accounted for, and it's either going into bills, it's going into savings, or it's going into future goals, or going into investments, going to, and what have you. But I'm giving that a name. That's allocated. I know how much money I have coming in. I'm going to put it in there. And if I don't have money coming in, I'm not putting something in the budget. I'm not making $1,000 and then I'm going to have my rent is $500, and then my utilities are $300, and my gas to work is another 100, and now I've got 100 left, but I'm planning on eating out every night, and so I'm going to rack up another $1,000 in food bills. Not going to do that. I'm going to look at my allocated and say, unless I earn some extra money this month or this week, that $1,000 is going towards rent, utilities, gas, and I got 100 left to eat on. So I better learn how to beans and rice it, or make some homemade bread and homemade pasta. And since we've been snowed in or iced into our house for the last 4 days, we've been making homemade bread and other stuff. So it took me way back to my $800,000 in debt days, where I learned how to stretch some money, stretch some food, make things work. You can make things work when you have to, when you want to. It's all about what's the most important thing for you. Is it the most important thing for you to satisfy your flesh, to satisfy your palate, or is it the most important thing for you to have a future that's solid? And the most important thing for me this week was make sure we can get to where the temperature is warm with still food in the pantry. So I've been pulling out all the old fashioned stops, y'all. Now, don't get me wrong. I think one of my blessings for having achieved the level of success that I have achieved is being able to eat out and to get my tea from Tea Energy. Tea to go here in Stephenville, right? Like, I'm like, I never thought I'd be the kind of person pay $8 for a hot cocoa and $6 for, or no, is it $6 now? $7 for a bougie tea. But ooh, I love that tea. I love it. I love it. Okay, they didn't pay me to say that. They're not giving me no affiliate fees. All right, so how do you plan when you don't know what's coming in? First of all, you create your allocated plan based on what you do know is coming in. But for everything else, that's when we use what's called an irregular spend plan. Okay. And an irregular spend plan is simply a prioritized list of things. So if you are on today, oh, hey, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you're on with us today. Thank you. Thank you, sir. If you're on watching live or even after the fact, I want you to play along with me. I want you to grab you some paper, and I'm going to actually walk you through what I'm talking about. And the first thing I want you to do is, right off the top of your head right now, if you had an extra $1,000 this week, what are the things that you might buy with it? I want you to write that down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you had an extra $1,000 this week, what might you write down with it? I mean, what might write down what you might buy with it, okay? And if you're listening to this on the podcast after the fact, go ahead and pause me real quick so you can do this. Now write down 1 through 5. What are the things that you might buy? And so in my case, if I had an extra $1,000, let's see what I would put down. If I had an extra $1,000 this week, I think I'd go get the old car out of the mechanic shop. I just realized we went and bought another car, y'all, and I had totally forgot about the other car because we bought a replacement and I didn't need it anymore. I'm like, wait a second, I just left money in that mechanic shop. I better get that car before he before he sells it. So if I had an extra $1,000 drop in my lap tonight, I would call that mechanic first thing in the morning and get that car out of his shop. Okay. I praise the Lord for that. I don't think I've ever been in a position in my life before, and I'm just talking while you write, but I don't think I've ever been in a position before where I have forgotten about a car. But y'all, it's on his last leg. We done rode that thing hard and wore it out. So I might do the car. I might make it that car. Maybe there's a trip you want to take, and maybe my friend is really hurting right now, and if I had the money, I would go out to Atlanta and go out and support her. She done lost her mother. She done lost somebody else. I forget who. And she's taking care of one of our church leaders who's been ill in the hospital with a severe form of cancer, and she's just I know she's strong. I know she got the Holy Ghost. I know the Lord uplifts her. But if I had an extra $1,000 drop in my lap tomorrow, I would buy a ticket and I would go fly out there. So I'm gonna put down flight. Okay. Now I hope you've got your 5 already. I'm just giving you a couple of examples of the kinds of things that I might do. And then, I always like to shop. So I'm putting the trip to the Galleria down. Ooh, if I get me an extra $1,000 that I didn't need in my spend plan, I'm going to definitely do some shopping. All right. So you're going to list your 5 things that are the most important to you. All right. You're going to list the 5 things you would do if you had an extra amount of money. Set the amount of money of reasonable thing, what you might bring in for that week or for that month or whatever time period you're planning. Then what you're going to do is you're going to prioritize it, right? So as much as as much as I enjoy shopping, and I know you probably be surprised to know that I enjoy shopping because I'm not a big brand name kind of person, and I'm kind of hard to fit, so I don't buy a whole lot, but I enjoy trying new things on, and I enjoy seeing what looks good on me, and I enjoy buying little trinkets, and I enjoy eating out. But as much as I like all that, I would have to say, out of the things that I just gave you, I would probably put that at the bottom of my priority. I'd probably put flying out to Atlanta at the top of my list. So my prioritized list would probably be flight to Atlanta, the car. I would do a trip with the kids trip. Um, I would take my son to. I would take my son to this I would take my son to this mechanics class. It's a mechanics camp where you learn how to over the course of the 10 weeks you learn how to rebuild a classic car. So I would take him to at least 1 week of that, right? So I'm gonna put those things down: kids trip and Philip engine class. All right. But at the top of my list, you know what? The top of my list would be Atlanta. So I'm going to now take my 5 things. And this is what I want you to do with your 5 things. I want you to take those 5 things that came to your mind. And again, we're not stressing about this. There's no right or wrong answer. You can always change it later. I'm going to take those 5 things and I'm going to rack and stack them in priority order. And so for me, the top priority would be go visit my friend in Atlanta. Right. So I make that number 1. Getting the car out of the mechanic's shop before he realizes I don't need it anymore and sells it for scrap metal. Well, I'm going to make that number 2 because I trust that he would call me first. So I'm not going to make that number 1 over my friend in Atlanta. Then I'm going to put the kids trip because the little one has been begging me for a special mommy and kiddos trip. And then I would put my son's engine class because he's probably forgotten all about it by now because it's been so long since I told him we would do it one day. And then I'm going to put shopping as number 5. And now that I have them in prioritized order, well, those are my priorities. And so what you do is you take your prioritized things you want to buy if you had more money. And then next to those, you write how much they cost. I mean, flying to Atlanta, I could probably stay with my friend, flying to Atlanta and back, eating out while I'm there, maybe another outfit or 2. If I want to travel light, some toiletries that I might have forgotten. I'm just going to call that about $600. Getting my car out of the shop. I was about to say a bigger number, but you know what? I want to speak life and not death. I'm going to say he's only going to charge me $400. I fear he might charge me more than that, but I'm going to just put it out there. If you put it out there, sometimes the Lord work it out for you. You put it out there and you walk in the energy like, hey, it's been sitting there for a while, but he hasn't done too much to it. So maybe he won't charge me too much. So I'm going to put that down. The kids trip, I would probably take the kids to like not Busch Gardens. What's the one that's here? Six Flags or something, or Epic Waters. Man, I love me some Epic Waters, but they really like Great Wolf. So let me put down Great Wolf. Y'all, Great Wolf was like $500 a night. So I'm gonna put that down for $500, right? Just one night. Because look, you can swim 2 days off of one night at Great Wolf Lodge. And then the engine class would be $1,000. And then the shopping, well, I'm gonna take all the money I could get. But let's be real. Let's be reasonable. Let's put a spring refresh for about $750. That'd be a couple outfits at Nordstrom Rack or off Saks, and that might be a couple of shoes. Maybe one or two pairs of shoes. Okay, at DSW. All right. So when I rack and stack all those, okay, I see that if I get an extra $500 this month, well, guess what? I'm not going to do anything on this list because all I got was an extra 500, and I might decide to go do the car, but that's not my highest priority. I'm going to save that 500 till I get another 100 and do my top priority. But if I get an extra $1,000 this month, 600 plus 400, now that makes 1,000. I should probably show you guys this, but I did it on scrap paper of something else. So I don't want to get that all in there. Y'all can't see that, can you? Okay. I should have wrote that on a blank piece of paper. But I realized I'm talking all this as an example, but I'm not really showing it to you. Let me get another blank one I could write this on. Okay, let me just pause for a second. I know in the industry we don't like dead space. I'm gonna put ATL. That's 600. Car is 400. 3 Great Wolf is 500. Engine class, classic car. Let me put classic car. Class for Philip, that would be 1,000. And then I'm going to put down 750 for shopping. Okay. So when I get all those in here, 600, 1,000 is my running total, 1,500, then 2,500, then math in public, 3,250. Okay, let's see if you guys can see that. Okay. If you're listening to this on a replay as part of the Building Wealth Together podcast, I encourage you to go out to my YouTube channel, JJ Knows the Way, and you'll be able to see it. So there's my prioritized list. Okay. And don't knock the sticky note. My very first budget for the first 2 years of my as a second lieutenant was all on a sticky note, because it was basically, I made $1,700 take home a month, 400 for rent, 350 for my car, whatever it was for tithes and food, and there was something else and bills because we were so much in debt. Okay. So there we have the rack and stack. Okay. There's the rack and stack. And then what happens is, this is my running, wait, on the side. This is my running total on the other side. So I know off the bat, I don't have to think about it. I don't have to stress about it. I don't have to wonder, what am I going to do with this? The decision has already been made. I can clear that mental energy to focus on my future and my dreams. I already know that if I make an extra 600, I'm going to Atlanta. If I make an extra 1,000, I'm going to Atlanta and doing the car. If I make an extra 1,500, I'm doing Atlanta car, taking the boys to Great Wolf. If I make an extra 2,500, I'm doing the Atlanta car, taking the boys to Great Wolf, and I'm letting Philip do that classic car class because he really wants to be a mechanical engineer, right? And he wants to design race cars. He has that. Look, that hyper boy, he loved NASCAR from 3 and 4 years old. And I would sit there and I don't know why we're watching this, because they're just going around and around the track, but he loved it. And when any parent of an ADHD kid knows, you get that kid to sit still for some time, ooh, you got to nurture that thing. Ooh, I used to take him to the good guys car shows and all that. Okay. So I know now if I get an extra 3,250, then we're doing everything on the list. But this is my cut line. This is my prioritized list. And then wherever the money comes in is my cut line. So you have 2 different kinds of budgets. Of course, you probably, you've grown. You probably have more of an allocated spend plan than this. But this is exactly the way I run my budget. Okay, now that I did that, now my camera won't focus. Hold on, let me see if I can get myself back into focus here. Okay. But that's exactly the way I run my business. My business is 100% commission. It's really great to have your own flexibility to do what you want to do. But if I don't work, I don't get paid. right? Like I have multiple streams of income. I get book money coming in, I get course money coming in, I get this money and that money. I have multiple streams of income coming in, but for the most part, the biggest amount of money, if I don't work, it's not coming in. So I have to work to generate those leads, and I aspire for the day where all of the passive income flows meet all the needs, right? So, or no, they do meet the needs, but the desires. It's the desires, y'all. So that's the first thing, is understanding how to do those two budgets and making sure you can cover your four walls, your housing, your basic transportation, your basic food, basic clothing, all of that. Make sure you have that covered with money you know is coming in. And if you don't have that covered with money you know is coming in, then there's two things you can do. One, you could increase the money you have coming in that's a reliable, repeatable. So taking on a job or taking on gig work that is reliable, right? Another thing that you could do is decrease expenses, find ways to shed expenses. And sometimes that's not fun. But I remember having a client who only made $400 a month, was very, very happy. They were in a roommate situation, and that $400 a month, due to the nature of their work, covered everything they need. They got a fair amount of their food through their job, you know, and they took care. They had a fair amount of food and wardrobe and all those kinds of things through their job, and I mean, the life was good, was good for them. So I want you to get this concept down. I saw on my, I can't see all the channels, like it doesn't show me LinkedIn and it doesn't show me YouTube, but it shows me Facebook main. It doesn't even show me the Facebook groups. So I have all these groups. I have LinkedIn. I have YouTube. I can't see all that, but on the main Facebook channel, I saw a huge drop when I started walking y'all through that exercise. So I know it's tough for people, and I know sometimes we want things to be super easy. I promise you, this is a lot easier than I probably made it sound, but it's so essential because you have to plan. If you don't plan, then when that big chunk of money comes in, you just spend it on whatever. And then when it's gone, you're like, oh, oops, we didn't pay for rent. Oops, we didn't pay for this. Oops, we didn't pay for that. So we got to make sure that we are doing the planning. I think 99% of financial wealth building, walking in abundance, is prior strategic planning, knowing what you want out of life and taking the actions to get there, and having a spend plan that's allocated with the money you know is coming in, and a spend plan that's not allocated, irregular, which is a rack and stack of the things that are important to you. Those two spend plans are the key for any entrepreneur who wants to succeed with wealth. Now, here's another key, and this is another key for that particular person, because I know what field their husband is in, is you have to understand your business cycles, okay? So I'm going to draw some business cycles on this paper here, okay? I'm going to do it long way so I can get two of them on here. All right. I'm going to draw some business cycles. I'm going to start off with financial planner. Financial planner is kind of like it's kind of like trainers in the gym. Like a lot of gyms make most of their money in January and February. Like that's the biggest amount of income they're going to make all year long, right? And so financial planner is kind of the same, okay? So let me draw out this time. We're going to have January, and we're going to end in December, okay? And it's not an exact scale. All right, it's not an exact scale, but it's okay. We're going to make income. I'm going to make income around there, okay? And I'm going to put about halfway through. Again, it's not exact, but just about halfway through. This is going to be summer. I'm going to call that about June, okay? Just to give us a little bit of guiding, okay? Financial planner, January, February, biggest income of the year, okay? Everybody wants to make a New Year's resolution. Everybody wants to do better with their money. Everybody wants something different this year than what they had last year, and they know that JJ Conway is the one to help them make it happen. Absolutely, all day long. My plan works 100% of the time for everybody who works it. And if you work the plan works for you, and it will work. It's not sexy, it's not exciting, but it works. Okay. And so we do that. But then round about March, I think in fitness sometimes it's mid-February, but round about March, April-ish, people realize that the plan is not sexy and the plan is not exciting, and the plan is actually kind of like tighten your belt and make more money and spend less than you make and invest the rest. And people are like, I really wanted to press an easy button and get my finances done super easy peasy. And this is not easy peasy because it means I can't just buy all the subscriptions I want to buy and do all the shopping I want to do. It means I actually have to spend what I made or don't spend it. So then around about March or so, you see a big drop off. And then we have all the wedding seasons and the graduations and things like that. And so we get a little bump in financial planning. And then that kind of dries off a little bit. And then you kind of go into the year and it kind of gets pretty average. And I'm making that actually probably a little higher than it should be for financial planning. But then right about November, right about Thanksgiving time, I'll tell you what, the highest amount of cancellations I ever get as a financial planner is right as we go into Christmas. Right as we go into Christmas, because of two reasons. One, everybody wants to spend money to make sure they have a good Christmas for their family. Two, everybody wants to do what they want to do, and they don't want JJ telling them, I don't think that helps you get to where you want to go. I don't think that helps you get to your dreams. Are you sure that that's in line with the goals that you told me you wanted to accomplish? Yeah. So a lot of times we find a huge drop off in our financial clients because they are not going to they're gonna pick me back up in January. All right. Now I'm gonna draw another business cycle. In fact, I'm probably gonna just use the same thing here. I'm gonna draw another business cycle. This would be more for a flooring business. So you do flooring, okay? So let me write this down. This purple equals financial planner. And does the screen show up good? Show up well? Yeah, this green is going to be for a roofer. No, let me do flooring. Roofing is very similar to flooring. The big thing with roofing is that if you have a storm, which you get a lot of storms, February, March, April. If you get a lot of storms, you could get a spike in business. But that's not something you can plan for it, but it's not something you plan for as the business cycle. Like you plan to be able to absorb when those happen. But let's say you're in flooring. Guess where nobody's buying flooring? They're not buying flooring in January and February. They're not thinking about flooring in January and February. But then March comes along and everybody wants to sell their house in the summer. So they start getting it ready for the market in March. And around about the summer, that's the most that you typically get. Now, if you are in one of these industries that I'm talking about, please know that I am making this very simplified. Okay, there's lots of little wiggles and ups and downs. I'm just making this a simple concept to understand. Then it begins to drop down, and then you get a little bump round about Christmas and between right before Thanksgiving and maybe right before Christmas, because people want to make their house look nice for their family to come on, right? But then it drops down, and at the end of the year, you get down to the end of the year and you get nothing. And it goes right down into the nothing. So this would be our, let's see that. This would be our flooring professional. Okay. Nothing, 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 nothing. Then I get a big spike in my business, and then it starts to draw down, and then it kind of levels off, and we get a little impress my family for the holidays business, and then boom, drops down as we roll into the next year. Okay. So whichever of these fields that you're in, it's important to understand where your living expenses are. Okay, so this red is going to be living expenses. And again, if you're listening to this as part of the podcast, please go out to my YouTube channel or my Facebook channel, and then you'll be able to, it's the Fireside Chat for February. You'll be able to actually see what I'm drawing here. Okay, so you have to understand where your living expenses are. And then in the months that you're making the overages, in those months, you're going to sock away that money to make up for the months where the rest of the year, the money is not coming in to meet your living expenses, however you set them. I mean, you can always lower your expenses to some extent, or you can, find ways to take on more income by expanding your business, expanding your reach, expanding your scale, things like that. But by and large, each business has a business cycle. And it's important for us to know our business cycle, because that way it will help us plan. It will help us plan for the things that are coming down the pike. It'll help us plan for the things that we need to budget for. It'll help us understand that, hey, when this month happens, don't go wild and crazy and spend all the money shopping. Don't do like I tend to do. I tend to spend money shopping or traveling. I love to travel. And so I have to make sure I save that income because those lean months are coming. But that's my business cycle. I put a financial planner by business cycle, and I also put one for flooring, just to kind of give you an understanding. But every business has business cycle. Hairstylists have a business cycle. Plumbing has a business cycle. Everybody has a business cycle. And once you study your business, once you study your craft, this is where you take it from being a hobby to being a business. This is where you take it from being something that you do as an employee who thinks they want to work for themselves, but you're still an employee mindset, and into a business mindset. I don't have it. I don't have it right here, but cash flow quadrant teaches the same thing as E-Myth, really. The E-Myth is basically package your business so that you'll be able to sell it later and run your business like something you're wanting to sell it. The cash flow quadrant, it's the only Robert Kiyosaki book I actually really like. The cash flow quadrant book, let's see if he's got a big one in here. It walks you through why so many of us start our businesses, and then we end up feeling like we got another job, because what we do is oops. Whoa, come back. Okay. So what we do is we go to school and learn how to be an employee, right? We learn how to be an employee, and then we think, oh, well, okay, well, then maybe we should actually go in and have hold on. We should go in and have a business. I'm gonna go start me my own business. So then I become what's called self-employed. Well, then we realize, hey, all I did in going from being an employee to being self-employed is I took on a whole lot of extra responsibilities and took all the fun out of doing something that I'm really good at and really like to do. Now I got all this management and oversight, and I got to deal with these policies and procedures. And don't let me have to deal with cranky patients or cranky parents or cranky clients who can just ruin me with one bad YouTube review or one bad Google review. All right. So we think we're starting a business, but really all we've done is created another job for ourselves. And in the next quadrant is the business owner. So this is where you truly have a business. See, when you're self-employed, you don't have a business unless the business is run off systems that make you money, right? But the ultimate goal is to become an investor, which is becoming an investor is the person where you're putting your money out there and your money makes you money. Your business, the systems make you money. As an investor, your money makes you money. You might make your money through the business, but then you begin to invest that money and you can receive the exponential growth that comes from being an investor. Yeah, good stuff. All right. Well, that's a really long answer to one person's question. I think the whole podcast, when we rebroadcast this as part of the podcast, I think it's going to be the whole episode. Okay, so to answer that question, in order to budget when you have a business, you don't know how much money is coming in. The first thing you do is take stock of what you've done. And personally, you can go and get my simple spend plan. And ooh, I should drop that link in there for you. Wait a second. Where is that link? Let me get the link to that. I have a simple spend plan, y'all. I think you would like it. You could go in and you want to. One of the things in my simple spend plan is that you track for a whole year what you spent, and it really gives you some ideas. It gives you some ideas into what it is that you did or didn't do so that you can actually figure out how to get that budget or how to plan. So if I track my expenses and my income for the last year, if I go back through my bank statements and my credit card statements, which I really hope you're not running up credit card statements, but if you are, until you know how, well, who was that? Who was that? Was it Maya Angelou who said, "When you know better, do better," right? So when you once you learn better, you can do better. But right now you're where you're at. Well, you put all those statements together and you look at what you've been spending, and then you can go back over the year and say, wow, this month I spent this much, that month I spent that much, that this month I brought in this much, this month I brought in that much. And so when you do all of those things, now what you have is you have an idea of the cycle for your business. Now, the cycle for your business is impacted by a lot of different factors. So when I can't see you all anymore. Let me make sure that everything's okay on the screen because I was going to the budget place. When you're starting out, when I was starting out as a financial planner, I wasn't making enough as a financial planner to cover my living expenses. In fact, I was only charging $29 for financial fix. If anybody remember that, I would go to the Maria meeting. That's when I started advertising it. $29 financial tune-up. Well, I tell you what, by the time I did all the analysis, by the time I answered your questions, looked at your finances, and analyzed your investments, I was making less than minimum wage. And come on now, I didn't start a business to make less than minimum wage, and neither did you. So it's important to understand your business cycles. And so once so you can control some of this to some extent, being a much more higher tier financial planner. I charge more than 10 times that for my financial coaching so I can have a bigger growth here. So some of those things you can control, some of those things you can increase in confidence, some of those things you can take my disc assessment, my Maxwell, it's not mine, it's John Maxwell team disc assessment to help you learn how to communicate better. We have a sales assessment to learn you how to communicate in sales. And sometimes you communicate different ways, right? Like I am a DI personality, dominant and inspiring. Like I want to motivate people, but at the core, my very core of my being, I want to get stuff done. I want to get it done, and I want to get it done now. And if it hurts your feelings, well, that's too bad, but we're gonna get it done. But there is the part of me that does care about the feelings, but the part of me that wants to get stuff done is the part that always wins out. And I don't want to just get stuff done and take forever. I want to get it done now, get it off my plate, and move on to the next thing because I like the excitement and I like the adrenaline of tackling the problem and getting it done, right? But in my sales and in my communication personality, this is the weird thing for me. Is some of y'all gonna be like, well, yeah, JJ, we already knew that because you were a scientist in the Air Force for 23 years. But my sales and my communication personality is more of a CD, which is somebody who's going to take things real slow, analyze all the things. They're going to make sure everything is just right, that every I is dotted, every T is crossed, and they are going to, they still don't care if your feelings get hurt. In fact, they have very little concern for if your feelings get hurt because it's more important to get it done right and to get it done as quickly as possible, but most importantly, to get it done right. And so that's the scientist nature in me. And so for me, learning that about myself has opened up so much for my ability to sell because I used to give people all the million and one details about everything because that's what I want when I make a purchase. And so so these there's things that you can do to increase your value and increase your income without necessarily changing your job or getting into a different business. And I do hope that if you're in that situation today where you're not being compensated what you're worth, that you'll come to me and you'll let me do the John Maxwell assessment, the John Maxwell disc assessment on you, so that you can see what your behavior says about you to others. It may not be what you're really feeling inside, but it's what your behavior says to you about others. And I'll tell you something, it's the most liberating thing in the world. And if you're like me and you come off as rude or arrogant or condescending sometimes, it's also some of the most disheartening things in the world, because I know I care deeply about the people I care about. And so, but it doesn't come off that way. And so what have I done over the last 5 years? I am learning how to make sure that I show you how much I care, right? So there's things like that that we can do. But if you have a flooring business, you can self-improve all you want. The bottom line is, unless you find ways to make new business streams and multiple streams of business in this doldrums, you're not making anything. So then when you know the business cycle, when you analyze what you have coming in and what you have going out, once you analyze that business cycle, now you can actually move forward with your life. You can plan what you know you're going to have coming in, and you can plan for what you hope will come in with your prioritized list of your irregular spend plan. Ooh, that was a long answer, but I hope it was a good one. If you all would just indulge in me in just a second, I am going to grab for you the spend plan, the spend plan um, link where you can download a free copy of my simple spend plan. It's actually a spend plan. It's actually a spend plan bundle. So it has two spend plans in it. One is the simple spend plan, and I'm actually gonna show it to you. Okay, I'm gonna show it to you as soon as I get this on here. Okay. Just give me a second. If you're listening on free conference call, I apologize for the dead space. I want to make sure that I do this right here, because we just rebuilt the page. For those of you who don't know, I have been fighting and fighting with my old email service provider since November. I haven't been able to send any marketing emails out, and I'm thankful that I was at least able to send the last one for the last Bible study. No, I didn't even think I was able to do that, but I was able to send it via text to people who had opted in on text. But I was just like, it's been months now. Why am I paying y'all? And then if y'all aren't going to fix it. And so I finally just went ahead and we got a new one. And it's working well. So let me drop this in the chat for you. You can go and get this. It's 100% free. It's jjclink.com/easy budget. Let me drop that in the links. Now, I don't know on LinkedIn. I don't know if that link shows up. And hopefully I will remember in the show notes for the podcast when we extract these Q&A and put them into the podcast. Hopefully I'll remember to get that for you. But it's jjclink.com/easy budget. And I'm going to show you what it looks like real quick so that you can see. There's two in there. One is the one I'm going to show you, which is the simple budget form. And I'll show you the example that's filled out. That's what I'll show you. So what you're going to get is you're going to get the simple spend plan. You're going to get that is not, oh, I see. That's the example with, okay. Yeah. Okay. Whoo, for a second, I was like, please tell me I didn't mess this up. Because I'm cleaning out my computer, so I hope I didn't delete the wrong thing. Okay, share screen. So what you're going to get in there is you're going to get a blank one where you can customize your columns, and then you're going to get this one that shows you an example of what my columns were. And then there's also another form in there, which is, let's see if you guys can see that. Can y'all see that? There we go. You can see it. It's a whole year at a glance. When you print it out, you can set it, depending on how you do it, you can set it to print out the whole year on one page. And I know people who literally printed this out, and every year that's how they track their spending, is on this with a pen and paper, pen and pencil. Okay, let me take me off so you can see that a little bit bigger. But you can see on here, you've got, space for all the money that you have coming in, right? Then you have space for all of the expenses that you have. It's got a planned and an actual, because I think it's really important not just to not just to say this is what I'm going to do, but it's also important to look at, okay, this is what you said you were going to do, and this is what you did. So then you can analyze why. Like for example, sometimes we don't realize things. Like, how many of us forget that Christmas is in December every year? And we think we're going to stick to this plan, and then it's like, well, wait a second, I want to have a good Christmas for my kids, right? And so I like this one. Let me show y'all this one. Let me show y'all this category. I like this category. This category right here, this is a category a lot of people forget about: marriage investment, date night. Am I going to spend some money and some time on making sure that my husband's glad he's married to me? But just different things. These are different things for you to think of. And yes, even I, the amazing financial planner, even I have an unknown, because every once in a while, I might swipe that debit card somewhere and forget to keep the receipt. And then, it's a couple weeks later. I don't remember what that $3 charge was from the gas station. It was probably snacks, but it might have been a cell phone cord. I don't know. So that's where you can get that budget at jjclink.com/easy budget. And then also in the folder is an actual financial plans form. So the financial plans form, I'm not going to be able to show you all of it because it's so many different things. But I do want you to see the tabs that are in it, because the pages, it's such a big print that I can't show you the whole page. But let's see. Oh, nope. That's showing that. Let's see. Let me share. Do I have to stop sharing that one? Stop screen. Share screen. Window. Okay, so you have welcome. You have a list of all the different kinds of income that you might have, the things that you have value of. You'll see like different lists of your insurance that you might have if you're working on your debt snowball. If you have to have if you're in collections, I have a different version for that, but that's something that we work on together. Your monthly cash flow. This is the allocated spend plan that I talked about, and then space for your irregular spend plan. So you want to go get this. You want to go ahead and go out there and get that. It's absolutely free. You've also got a lump sum payment form for things that are like life insurance once a year, car insurance every 6 months, things like that. Okay. And then the last page, oh, it's not the last page. The last page is credit card history. Well, I don't really use that much. The last page is what I call major components of a healthy financial plan. And so in this major components of a healthy financial plan, it's the things that you need to have in place for me to say as a client that you have a healthy financial plan. So go ahead and go out there to jjclink.com/easy budget, and you will be able to download your own set of forms, whether you prefer the simple one or whether you like the comfort and security of the multiple spreadsheet plan. One of those or something in between will work for you. It's just important to find what works for you. Well, that was a lot longer of an answer to that question than I thought it would be, but you know what? That's going to be a really, really good podcast. I think people are going to be blessed by it. Real quick, I'm going to check the free conference call to see if we have anybody with their hands raised. I don't see anybody in free conference call with their hand raised. I'm going to check the Ask JJC. And if I don't see anybody with a question and I don't see any questions in the chat, then we're going to go ahead and close out for tonight. So I'm looking at Ask JJC and I don't see any new questions. I do see that there were some questions from 2 months ago that did not get answered. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach out and make sure that those questions are still relevant, that people want me to answer them, because they might have already moved on. We had a lot of family. We had a couple losses in the family. We had a lot of things going on. And so a few people may have slipped through the cracks. But that's all I have for you all today. I want to thank you for being a part, whether you're watching with us live every Thursday night, 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern, or whether you're listening to this as part of the Building Wealth Together podcast. I know that your time is your most important resource, and I am grateful, and I am just so honored that you would choose to spend your most valuable resource in concert, in fellowship, in listening with me. I'm JJ Conway. Thank you so much for being here today. Y'all take care and be blessed.